Okay, it's 1 o'clock. We'll call in the order and rise and say pledge allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We only have one item on the agenda, and I don't believe there's any additions that can be made to it at the special meeting. So we'll commence to start. I'll turn it over to Justin.
So since the meeting on Tuesday, I followed up with Kent Marshall, asked for the conflict of interest waiver. The HRA board approved a limited conflict of interest waiver for the purposes of trying to find a resolution to the situation that we're in. Does not include any litigation. So I have copies for the public there. I'll have one for each of you now, so. I think we'll just start by taking some time to review that.
Okay, at this time, I will once again turn it over to you, Justin, to guide us in our discussion.
So I had, the thought had crossed my mind about asking the board to close the session. I looked at various court rulings on, you know, what the attorney-client privilege consists of. And I reached the conclusion that it wouldn't be appropriate to close for a couple different reasons, because I'm giving you general advice. And if this goes to litigation, there is no assurance that I would be the one litigating it. And the law is less clear, when it's the county initiating action as opposed to the county defending its actions as to whether or not those discussions count. So we're gonna do our business in the open. And well, first, are there questions about Kent's letter? Otherwise, you know, we need to decide what the path forward is. You know, Kent's letter explains, you know, when they receive notice, what efforts they have made, what efforts they continue to make in a time frame of those things being done. He mentioned in the letter that it does not necessarily need to be, you know, a turnkey sort of office for them to move in. In a conversation I had with Kent after he sent this letter, I think the important things that he stressed were, you know, internet, IT, infrastructure, making sure that the electrical is fine and dandy. And apparently there is a problem with the roof that is not an aesthetic thing, but, you know, is a structural thing. You know, the offer that he made in his letter is they would be out by May 20th. And he mentions what he refers to as a confession of judgment. What that really means is that if they're not out by May 20th, we file that order with the court. You know, a confession of judgment is, you know, I owe Dwight $100, you know, and Dwight threatens to sue me, and I say, I acknowledge that I owe you $100. I'm gonna pay you $20 a month. And as long as I do that, I don't have a judgment entered, but as soon as I miss a payment, you go to the court and you get our judgment and you don't have to litigate it. So that is their starting point. If May 20th comes, they're not out, something's filed with the court issues a writ of restitution of the premises and directs that to the sheriff to remove the occupants of that office. So that's what the offer is. You have several options, you know, in response to that. You can suggest a different date. You can suggest once A, B, and C are done, then your occupancy ends, and you can suggest that if that is an option that you're willing to explore, you know, that they will proceed with diligence and we will have access to their contractors to make sure that it is scheduled and they are working towards that end. If there's a concern in that regard. You can choose to proceed with, you know, bringing an unlawful detainer action, an eviction action. One of the issues, and this is just me providing you advice, is the new legislation that came into effect doesn't necessarily fast track those. You know, so it could be that you get your order May 1st. It could be that you get your order July 1st. It could be you know, that it is unnecessarily delayed. There is now a, you know, housing court in the 8th district. And commercial evictions should not be in housing court, but all evictions for some reason get referred there. And then they go, oh my goodness, I'm sorry, you know, and it's a good concept because there are legal services attorneys there to help people who are in danger of losing their houses. You know, but that necessarily delays it before it gets kicked back to district court. The court has the option of staying the recovery of the premises for up to 7 days. You know, so if you get your order on May 13th, they can choose to stay it for May 20 days. When Kent refers to, you know, so there are legal remedies where the law says that you have a remedy, and then there are equitable remedies where the court can, as a matter of fairness, do certain things. You know, he does not mention, you know, temporary restraining orders or anything like that, but, you know, I think it's clear to me that, you know, when he's saying that, you know, we're gonna be unable to communicate with HUD and the reporting agencies and things like that, that's going to do irreparable harm to our agency. So there's the possibility of that. You know, at the end of the day, it is your decision and not mine, and I'm here to answer questions that you have about what your options are.
So there's a proposed date of May 20th, but that's just a date with a signed document that still has to go to court, that is
No.
still.
So the way that it would work is, you know, May 20th, if they're not out, it would have to go to the court. It would have to be delivered to the court with the proposed writ of recovery of the premises, with which the court would then execute, and it would be done on, you know, that day. You know, but that would be by written agreement. You know, so the benefit to May 20th or another day that you may choose for me to communicate to their counsel is that it's a date certain.
Well, and my understanding is you wouldn't be able to represent us in litigation anyway, so we'd have to go find someone else at that point, right?
Yes.
Delivering, I mean, so my trust in, I'll call it the Good Old Boys Club of following through is very, what I found in the last 90 days is if it doesn't fit the narrative, there's no memory of it. And I get this is written down here, but there's no memory of it.
We could request a further waiver where you could represent us.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
one more point, and I don't know if it needs clarification, but we were talking about options and Justin referred to A, B, and C. That related to the construction or the repair, A, B, and C, not one of the options.
Right. You know, so.
Make sure that.
Right, you know, you could enter into a similar agreement with, you know, the HRA that upon the
Electrical.
the IT infrastructure, the electrical and the roof issue.
Ceiling, yeah,
Yeah,
that's what that referenced.
you know, and I think that's in line with the conversation that you had with their chairperson.
Yeah.
Your question, Troy, if it was May 20th and if there was an agreement signed to that regard, yes, it would have to go to the court, but there wouldn't be a process.
Is there anything they could file between now and then that would delay that?
No.
This was first discussed 90 days ago.
So we have referenced both the May 20th date, and we've talked about the court route. There potentially is an option where we could offer a date different than May 20th as a counter offer. Would you want to weigh in on that, or is it a little bit, Justin, or thoughts, or?
Well, it's a negotiation. You know, or it's litigation. Those are your options, you know, and you know, that's more of a policy decision for the board to make if they want to narrow the window. You know, there's also the hybrid option that, you know, the agreement says you will be out the sooner of completion of A, B, and C, or May 20th.
And then we would have the option to, I won't say supervise it, but have,
If they agree to that, you know, this is, you know, talking about our options as opposed to, you know, we don't know that they're going to agree to that.
one may conclude that the May 20th, they probably included all the repairs, kind of turnkey. And so very likely that could be able to be moved into, like we said, if those key components, safety wise and just operation wise, were completed. Yeah,
I will make a motion to hire outside counsel and start the eviction process.
Dave, you have a motion?
I'll second it.
You got that, Chad?
Yep.
Discussion.
I got one thing to say. You go through that process, that's fine, but it might be longer than May 20th too, when you go through that process, so it could be. You know, there'll be a hearing and they'll hear both sides. And the judge will decide. So, but when you get your hearing set, when you get on the court docket for a hearing, you know, first off, you gotta fill out the paperwork and then serve HRA. And then they'll ask for a hearing, and then you gotta get on the court docket for the hearing, then both sides have to come say their side of the story, so. I think, you know, their paragraph here, they said that they're willing to be out of there as quick as they can. They said it could be within 20 days or whenever they could, or May 1st. So I just don't think, that you're gonna speed up any of those timelines by doing what we're proposed to do here, so.
Well, and just because it also doesn't mean that you can't. It doesn't have to be one or another. You know, it can, you know, you can, if there's an appetite for it, you know, continue to negotiate if that's something that you're interested in.
Aside from the court
You
litigation.
can start that process in case you don't get the agreement that you want. You know, you can proceed concurrently. You know, it happens, you know, all the time that something gets sued out or charged out because you're up against a statute of limitations. That doesn't mean that it can't resolve as well.
So if you go down that route and you're negotiating in good faith, but you've also started the other process, does that reduce the appetite for the other party to negotiate?
No,
I mean,
it provides a safety net that, you know, if you just negotiate and those negotiations break down, whenever you meet again, you're a week, 10 days further behind in the process. So instead of, you know, the outer limits looking like July 1, if you're successful, it's looking more like August 1. Or, you know, May 1 to June 1.
What's your thoughts on negotiating with the time, say constraint, or, you know, say within so many days, here's our offer, we need a response. I mean, if we're talking July's and August is 10 days or a week, maybe isn't monumental. Where we could offer something and they could agree to it, and then at that point, look at this.
Well, the difficulty in that process is you're dealing with two public bodies.
Yeah.
You know, so, you know, if there's certain authority, you know, if we pass the motion to hire outside counsel to start the eviction, that process is underway. You know, if you also pass a motion to say, you know, it's gotta be May 1. You know, I can take that to Kent. Neither Kent or I can call one person and say, they offered May 1. How does that sound? Because it's the boards that make the decisions, not I, not Kent. You know, it's different if, you know, Kent is renting to Troy. Then I can just call Kent and say, or Ken, you know, May 1. No, we can do May 10. You know, and all of that takes time.
So our next meeting would be what,
16.
16? Additional discussion? I'll call for a roll call vote. If you agree with the motion, say yes. If you disagree with the motion, say no. Commissioner Spear,
Yes.
Commissioner LaValle,
No.
Commissioner Troy Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Volbotny,
No.
Commissioner Johnson, yes. Now, one of the options was concurrent. Could you expound a little bit more on that, Justin?
So you would move forward with the negotiations as well. You know, if you have an alternate proposal to the May 20th, whether it be a date or a set of conditions, you know, and if the set of conditions aren't met by May 20th, then it would be May 20th. Then, you know, that is a different date that you guys want or agree to. that can happen at the same time as the case is getting prepped for eviction.
So I gotta try and see what you said. So we could offer negotiate a piece. The decision we just made as far as continuing with the May 20th, the option for they have on the table, confession of judgment still be in place. I kind of heard too.
Yes, well, yes, the May 20th, if the board approves the confession of judgment of May 20th, then there's no outside counsel to be hired. If the previous motion would not have passed, then you have no leverage to negotiate either, because there is no alternative. So, if you wanted, and I'm gonna make up conditions because it's not, in dates, because it's not my place to recommend those, so if you wanted to offer, April 35th, and, 2 solar eclipses, or if 2 solar eclipses occur before April 35th, they're gonna be out by the time of this 2 solar eclipses. Okay? You can do that, and at the same time, there's gonna be outside counsel who's, proceeding along a different path. It's no different, you had Western Prairie this morning, it's no different than concurrent planning and permanency cases. You have kids out of the home. The law says that you have to reunify them with their parents. At the same time, if that doesn't happen, you have to plan what happens if they can't reunify them.
Right.
So this is no different, the eviction paperwork will commence. You can, if you choose, continue to negotiate different dates or terms under the same framework.
So we could agree to offer an alternative conditions and date.
Right.
And once again, I gotta make sure I'm clear. And let's say they don't agree to it. At this meeting, would that be contingent, or would that our next meeting we then go to that 20th date? Is that still, I'm mixed up on if that's still, the confession of judgment is still in place? Because
There is no confession of judgment in place. That is an offer to settle the circumstance between the county and the HRA.
so we either gotta take that offer or we offer something different.
Yeah.
Can't have both them.
I'm not sure if I'm understanding.
Well, if we go into litigation, very likely it would be farther out than May 20th.
Correct.
So we have an offer that locks in May 20th.
You have an offer that locks in May 20th that you can take if you want.
Yes,
Or maybe 2-3 weeks earlier.
Correct.
that's what I'm saying. So we make an offer
You can make a counter offer.
and with the May 20th as a fallback? That's kind of what I heard you say, right?
That's the end game date.
The difficult part about this discussion is we're sitting in a public meeting. So
Yeah.
if you tell me they need to be out by April 12th, but if they say no, then May 20th will work, then they're not going to say yes to April 12th.
Yeah, I understand that.
If there is a different offer to take to them, I can then present that offer, and if they have a counter, or if they say no, I can ask Kent, well, can I take May 20th back to the board?
So the point would be then,
They don't, based on what's contained in the letter, they don't want to go to court. They want to get it resolved.
So thoughts on a counter offer to take to them with a different date and contingency on some of these repairs?
Mr. Chair, you got something on your mind? Would you like to make a motion?
Well, I guess we don't accept the May 20th, we're kind of saying it's gonna be later than May 20th,
It's possible.
possible, more than likely possible. Not, we don't know that.
I don't know when court set,
I have a suspicion that if you accept the May 20th, they're gonna go into court and go, well, they're fine with it being May 20th.
But what I'm saying is if we accept May 20th with the conditions that if the repairs are done and we can supervise it and they need to move in, we've locked in the 20th or maybe even the end of April.
if you agree that their move out date is May 20th. And that if they're not out by May 20th. That you can get a writ of recovery from the court. There is no reason to bring an eviction action.
Right.
How about the conditions of the repair? If the 3 or 4 items, if it's done by 25th of April, that we could get them to agree that they would start commence to move.
Yes,
I mean, would that be part of that? Those conditions?
you could say we accept May 20th as the drop dead date, but if A, B, and C are done, or when A, B, and C are done. You know, you are out in
3 days or whatever.
48, you know, I don't know what the time frame is. I don't.
So back to what Bill said, and to me, that makes some sense. Because I think, I mean, I don't think they wanna drag this thing out. And
They don't want to prolong this any longer than they have.
and they've got a passion to get it fixed up. And we have the option that if we can have those conditions, that very likely it'll be long before May 20th. I really believe that.
And I really believe that we'll come back here on the 16th and we won't have any signed document. And we'll just be 2 weeks behind where we could be today.
Signed document as far as,
Well, they still would have to sign that 20th, the document saying they'd be out by May 20th or sooner. Cause you're gonna, if you're not just saying, oh, okay, we take the 20th. You're saying, well, 20th or this, well, then they're gonna meet the first Wednesday in May, and then they're gonna counter propose, and then it's gonna be June. And then by the time we get back to them, it'll be July.
I didn't follow, help me out with that date.
What didn't you follow?
That's-
If we counter offer, they don't meet again until the first Wednesday in May, right? So that's when they're gonna sit down and go, oh, well, no, we don't agree to that. We're gonna go ahead and do this. And then whatever we say, they don't meet again until June 1st.
I think their council would be able to glean a position, wouldn't you say?
You just said you can't call one individual and make a decision. You gotta get the whole board together.
I just text Kent to see if, you know, that's what they decide, if the board decided that that was their offer.
Their best offer. Right?
Oh, I'm not gonna ask that. In other words, he's said Kent's proposal. My proposal is that we set a date certain of May 20th. They voted on, they agreed to the offer that is contained in this letter.
Of the 20. But
Yes.
no other conditions.
No other conditions.
But that could be our counter,
Yeah.
the conditions.
You know, based on what Lorna shared with you, based on what Kent told me. You know, they can work on card tables. the furniture doesn't need to be installed, it's, these items that they're most concerned about. But the board did vote on that, as far as I.
So would someone like to make a motion that relates to that 20th with conditions? And I guess we'd have to address the conditions, wouldn't we? So do we, well, I guess we can't talk about conditions until we get something.
Well, wouldn't you wanna put the conditions in the motion, because otherwise you don't really know what you're voting for?
Yeah, I guess so. So we better have. I guess the consensus would be is if we're gonna get a motion like that, then we're gonna spend a lot of time on conditions and not prove it.
Well, the carpenter's not gonna be there till the 1st of May.
And I don't know how much that work has to be done.
Mr. Chair, I'll make that motion to stick with their certain date of May 20th. Without conditions. What? That May 20th date
To accept the offer.
to accept the offer, if you want to consider that. What's the motion? To accept the certain date of May 20th. To vacate the courthouse entirely. With no conditions.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second,
Additional discussion?
Well, there is, 'cause like I said before, and I'm gonna say it again, is you're essentially handing them that it won't be before the 20th, because they're fine with them waiting until the 20th.
Additional discussion?
I have faith in them. If they are ready to move, they'll go before the 20th. I have faith in them.
If it fits the narrative.
No, I do. I have faith in, I think they'll be out of there before the 20th if they can be. That's what I think.
They wouldn't have made a commitment date if they didn't think that was gonna be a realistic date.
Commissioner Valley, if you're for the motion, say yes. If you're not, say no.
Yes.
Doyle Spear,
No.
Dwight,
Yes,
Roy Johnson,
No.
Ken Johnson, no.
So Justin, what's the next? Are you gonna be able to get a hold of someone
Yes,
to start I didn't know if you were able to, or.
I have 2 calls out already.
So I'd make a motion to accept the 20th date with the confession of judgment with conditions. Conditions being that if the installation of computer wiring, or the technology is in place, that's one condition. That the referencing, Driggins Electric, if they've, approved and updated whatever electrical issues as a second condition. And they reference Mark Brecky to evaluate the repairs on the finished, repair the ceiling damage in the living room. And if those three conditions are met, then within 48 hours, then they would commence to vacate. Did you get that, Chad?
Can you read the motion back, please?
Motion was to accept the 20th date with conditions. Condition one being the installation of computer wiring. Correct?
Yep.
Second condition being the approval and update of the electrical condition by Dragon's Electric.
Yep.
Third condition, repairs to the ceiling by Mark Brecky. Is it ceiling something else?
No.
Oh, and then, once those conditions are met, vacate within 48 hours.
Commence.
So I would have a comment that and it's based on the letter, I don't know if we're identifying a vendor. I don't know if we should be identifying repairs and leaving them vendor names out, in case they hired an alternate. Would you suggestion on that, Justin, or
Well, based on
their,
the correspondence, while not all of this work will need to be done before HRA can continue to perform its daily functions, a good portion of it will be, the servers will need to be moved. The electronic files and wiring for the computers will need to be completed, lighting and electrical issues, that's referring to the wiring in the ceiling.
Yeah.
Need to be addressed. Those are the items that he identified in his letter that in their view, need to be done.
and that's kind of what we've set right in motion.
Yes.
Okay.
The only thing that was previously discussed that wasn't included is some sort of way to ensure that it's on schedule and on track.
Should that be part of this motion? That,
That's up to you guys, not me.
um,
Oh, you didn't know it was done or not?
well,
I
that-
don't know if they said go ahead and do it or not, hold on.
so, whether we do it in this motion or another one, we could just, well, add that we help me out with the verbiage. Someone. Would we assign Jeff as our building maintenance person to monitor this and report?
HRA is not a county function.
But they don't have to tell him anything they don't want to tell him.
I don't think they.
Okay, bad idea, Ken.
That's why I made the motion, Mr. Chair. No conditions, because we can't babysit.
Well,
So. If I call an electrician. And they tell me I can be there in 2 weeks. Am I going to take the chance that they're, to play a game? I'm not saying that won't be done or it hasn't been done. That he's not gonna be able to get there before May 20th when I've agreed to move out.
would the condition be that we reserve the right to communicate with the vendors that are projected to do the repairs to verify timing? They don't have to accept them, obviously, this is a counter offer.
Right.
Would that be something that would make sense in the motion?
It's gonna have to come back anyway. There are gonna be provisions that aren't contained in your motion that, is just the way that, when we come and talk to you about, labor negotiations, we talk about concepts and then it gets drafted and ultimately gets approved.
Let's add in my motion that Grant County reserves the right to communicate with the vendors identified in the three stated repairs. On their progress. Or maybe we should, I don't know if you got it written so you can recite it back, that's,
The last part. Grant County reserves the right, to communicate with the vendors within the 3 stated repairs.
that makes sense.
Is that in the form of a question, Mr. Chair?
Or you're not. Better off not having it in there. Gonna delay it, maybe we don't have it in there.
There's nothing saying, Mr. Chair, they have to talk to us. Maybe those vendors aren't in agreement to this whole process and maybe they don't wanna talk to us. They don't wanna tell us nothing, I don't even know if it's any of our business. When it's not our building, but.
When I draft, I would, maybe it makes sense that, that as to those 3 repairs that, they provide us, a timeline. They reference Morris Electronics and Minnesota's been a hotbed for all sorts of bad things, so if Stevens County experiences what Grant County experiences, that might necessarily delay things. And those are beyond our control. A date certain is important. By the vote of the board, it doesn't appear that that is the desired debate. But any resolution involves pain on both sides. HRA didn't want to have this conversation in the first place. They wanted to continue to occupy their space. This should not offend this counteroffer should not offend them because it is absolutely consistent with what they have stated. That we want out as soon as possible.
So strike that last part and let's put in there that with the 3 conditions and that they provide us with estimated timelines as it relates to the repairs.
Which will give us an estimate.
That's all we're gonna get anyway.
It does no harm.
So should we hear it in total? Or you got it? You good with it? Or are we good with it?
You want me to read it to you?
Probably, because it's been a while.
Motion to accept the 20th date with conditions. Condition 1 is the installation of computer wiring. Condition 2 is the approval and updating of the electrical condition by Driggins. Condition 3 is the ceiling repairs by Mark Brecky. If those conditions are met, then 48 hours they commence to vacate. And that the HRA provide Grant County with an estimated timeline related to repairs.
Like 48-hour.
Well, the way that it was worded is it's to commence within 48 hours? Or are they to vacate within 48?
How did it
You said commence.
commence to vacate?
So they could move a box a day for,
Okay,
Until May 20th.
okay, well, so then we gotta change that, thank you. So that,
And it's, what I understood is they are to vacate under a confession of judgment on the sooner of May 20th or the completion of IT work, wiring, repairs to the ceiling. And upon completion of those 3 items, to vacate within 48 hours. And to provide us a time.
that's the motion,
That's what,
that's what I said.
well, I don't know if that's what you said, but that's what.
That's what I meant to say. Okay, we can get that in writing, is there a second to the motion?
Is Justin who provide you that motion?
I can.
For second to the motion? Guess we don't have a second.
you should ask 3 times.
Is there a? Was that a second?
No.
Oh. Is there a second to the motion? Thank you for that reminder. Okay. Guys, for lack of a second.
I'm not against continuing to negotiate. I just think if we put a day down here, we've now given them a defense up until that day. If Justin wants to go back and say this is not feasible, okay, but to put down a day that we have we have voted to approve an eviction process, and if we say May 20th, that May 20th is gonna show up in court. They're fine with this, so what are we talking about?
I fully understand. My challenge though, Troy, is if we agree to commence with an eviction process, it's June, July, or August. At some point, the best deals are lose-lose. And to
Mhm.
me, that's a bigger lose for us. It very could be July.
I think we come back here in May though, and don't have anything signed. We're right back where we were.
Chances are they
Month
reached
later.
out to these contractors and those contractors kind of got given them a definitive date where they could be in and be out and things like that. And that's why I say no conditions, because who knows if there's materials that need to be ordered or all of this stuff. Could be unforeseen, but that May 20th, they're giving us an end game date. Why would we not entertain them?
So, yeah, I 100% agree. So Bill, why wouldn't you second my motion? Because it was the May
Too many
20th.
conditions.
If they have it in their offer.
Yeah.
The letters, read the letter.
Can't babysit it because it's not a county function. So who's gonna sit and look that situation over? That's why I made the motion, May 20th with no condition. Let them operate, let them finish what they started, let us finish what we started, and then everybody can turn the page and we can move on with this.
But then in a sense, That's what they're saying. Why wouldn't we accept it?
I know what it's like to be a contractor and I know what it's like to hire contractors. But apparently a hot button issue like this, I would guess they got the definitive dates and otherwise they wouldn't give us May 20th as a date. They'd say June 20th because you can't get people here to, you know what I mean? And they're trying to do what they can and we're trying to do what we can, but you know, we gotta turn the page. We've got a community that's lit up like a prairie fire out there. I'll reiterate that, communities in the county. Not just one community.
So, Troy, did you suggest that we counteroffer in that statement you were saying?
I didn't say anything about a counter offer. I said I have no problem with Justin going back to Kent and saying, well, these dates don't, the board obviously doesn't agree with this. There can still be stuff going on there. It's just, I don't agree with holding off starting the proceedings because let's say we did pass, anything to go back to the HRA board. Now it's the first Wednesday in May. And they send something back here. And we say, okay, or no, go back with this. Now it's the 1st of June. You know, there was an offer of motion and a second to provide space with no end date. That was not approved by this board. There was absolutely an offer. You know, that's gonna have to be addressed too, because the intent was to give Horizon that space back. I know that's not a today discussion, but there were off ramps provided and here we are. You know, this started 2 years ago when the Good Old Boys Club did not agree with this board's decision that we were gonna hire a solid waste tech rather than fill that position.
Is there an alternate date? That's the only other thing that I can think of.
They'll offer a alternate date with the confession of judgment. And let the construction go as it goes. I'll make the motion that we offer the alternate date as April 19th. Friday. Is there a-
April 19th, correct?
as an alternate to their May 20th. Is there a second to that motion? Is there a second? One more time. Second to the April 19th date. That failed.
Mr. Chair, I got something.
Yeah.
Okay. Obviously, we're not gonna get anywhere with this, so just, I say, you know, they can start the proceedings and we'll see if HRA will get out of there as soon as they can. That's all we can do here today. We're just spinning our wheels, so. We're not gonna get anywhere. I can see that, so. start the proceedings, which don't, in my mind, does not look good. But, start them, and then, we'll see. HRA is working towards this, May 20th deal, and maybe they'll get out of there earlier. I'm sure they're gonna get out of there as quick as they can. I know they wanna move, so that's what I say. We're not getting anyone.
And not accept the offer that's,
That motion was defeated.
I,
And I hope I'm wrong in my estimation, but I'm not changing my mind to vote.
I guess we've decided that we're gonna secure council
Yep.
and proceed with the.
On the pretense of a divided commission.
This county's done a lot of stuff in the last few years on a divided board.
yeah, that's government. We don't always agree.
I don't know if this is, we can chalk this one up to be a good one. Just to be clear.
Can I just say something?
Sure.
I've sat, the last couple of years, watching and listening and learning, with everyone in the room, most of the people in the room, and I just wanna say, these are hard decisions and it's difficult. And I really hope moving forward that this group of people continue to make and put as much energy into non-department, you put a lot of energy into non-county department situations like this. I hope you will eventually put those energies to your current employees, the current department, the current people that are working at the helm, in leadership opportunities and leadership roles, because they need you. And I'm just saying that as a generalized statement, because this isn't a department necessarily of the county, and getting this resolved as quickly as possible is really gonna be important to Bill's comment about the divide and disarray of people's opinions in the community, and it's important, but we need to support the current employees that are employed at our county, because we have a lot of really good people, and we need to take care of them, in general. So I just wanted to say that as you think about what's happening, and as we continue to move forward and heal some of these things that are in divide, because it's important. Thank you.
I'd just like to add one more thing, because I know this has been a point of a lot of discussion, that we do have a lot of community members and employees, what you just referenced, school boards, townships, church boards, foundations, the HRA board, and I just want to acknowledge that and thank those people that are stepping up. And it hasn't been easy for the HRA board, but I also want them to understand that I feel that we appreciate their service, years of service, and that it hasn't been easy. And we're thankful that we have community members that are on these committees and boards. Is there anything else? During the meeting then at 2:04.
You sure about that? No? Thank you, Mr. Chair. Bob. I don't want to do anything.